In South Korea, Samsung is not just a company. It is almost a parallel infrastructure. You might be born in a Samsung medical center, study on a scholarship funded by a Samsung Foundation, live in an apartment built by Samsung C&T, and eventually even encounter services connected to the Samsung ecosystem. Some Koreans jokingly call their country the Republic of Samsung, but the reality is far more calculated. South Korea didn't accidentally produce these corporate giants. 50 years ago, facing total economic ruin, its government made a radical choice. It deliberately engineered the entire country to function like a single hyper-optimized export machine. In the 1960s, South Korea looked across the sea at Japan. Japan had dominated world trade with global brands like Sony and Toyota. South Korea's leaders asked one fundamental question: if Japan can build global industrial giants, why can't we? Taiwan developed a different strategy, relying on a dense network of small and medium-sized manufacturers. South Korea had neither agriculture nor time. If it let small, weak companies compete individually, they would be swallowed whole by foreign conglomerates. The government began operating less like a regulator and more like a strategic investor. It picked a small group of ambitious entrepreneurs and handed them a deal. The state provides cheap capital and protection from foreign rivals. In exchange, the company must meet strict export targets set by the state. If a company hit its export targets, it received double the bank credit for its next expansion. If it failed, the government cut off its financing and reallocated its assets to a competitor. Once the export machine was running, it followed a strict rule: never stay in a low-margin industry longer than necessary. In the 1960s, South Korea's biggest export was human hair wigs and cheap textiles, leveraging low-cost labor to generate initial foreign currency. In the 1970s, as soon as wages began to rise, the state forced a pivot to heavy industries: steel, shipbuilding, and petrochemicals. Foreign advisors warned that South Korea lacked the capital and technical expertise. The Korean response: build them anyway, work round the clock, and underprice global rivals until market share was captured. Geopolitical luck played a crucial role. US aid bought South Korea time. South Korea used that time to build industries. By the 1980s, the machine faced its ultimate test: could it move from heavy manufacturing to cutting-edge technology? In 1983, when Samsung announced it was entering the advanced memory chip market, international observers were skeptical. Japan and the United States held absolute dominance over semiconductor technology. What happened next was not just the story of one brave CEO. It was the mobilization of an entire national ecosystem. During global semiconductor downturns, when American and Japanese companies slashed investments, South Korean firms executed counter-cyclical investments. They dumped billions into factory expansion while market prices were collapsing, weathering massive losses until they pushed many competitors out of the market. Today, South Korea controls over 60% of the global memory chip market. The export machine had reached the apex of the supply chain. When a nation is organized like an export machine, its culture inevitably adapts to serve the system. The hyper-intense education system, the grueling work hours, the obsession with rankings — these were not random cultural quirks. They were the software updates required to run a high-speed, catch-up economy. And this brings us to the fundamental paradox of South Korea's success. South Korea's greatest competitive strength is simultaneously its hardest habit to break. How does a system built for catching up learn how to lead? The catch-up phase required standardization, hierarchy, and relentless effort. But the innovation phase requires dissent, creative risk-taking, and room for failure. Today, South Korea's national algorithm is running into a severe system bottleneck. Externally, it faces dual pressure from rising competition abroad and technological bottlenecks from the West. Internally, the hyper-competitive pressure required to power the machine has created the lowest fertility rate in the world. The human element of the system is opting out of reproduction. South Korea successfully engineered its way to prosperity. But the most dangerous moment for any system isn't when it fails in poverty. It's when the methods that created its success begin to limit its future. South Korea is still running at full speed. Only this time, the reference points ahead have vanished, and it must define its own finish line.